Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Born from Sin. Hope you're doing well. So, this week I am doing an episode called Who Am I? I have been a bunch of different people in my opinion. Growing up from the age of 4 to 11 because I was abused by my father, I was that little girl who was abused. I was labeled that way for many years. And I've been fortunate enough to heal past that part of my life. And I'm no longer I'm no longer a victim. I am a survivor, and it's something that will always remain with me no matter what. But it's not who I am anymore. And that changed for me at the age of 11. I stopped being a victim of my father. But then I became someone else. I became that little girl who took care of her schizophrenic mother. And I wore that label for many of years, right up until last year when my mom passed away in June. And in the last few months since she's passed away, I've really been fighting with who I am because I'm no longer responsible for my mom. And that was a very big part of my life and who I was, but I'm no longer that person because mom has now passed away. And although I was able to heal many years ago from the trauma that my father caused in my life, it hasn't been until recently that I've really been able to close that chapter on taking care of my mom and her schizophrenia story, which was, again, a huge part of my life. Like it took up my entire childhood, most of my teenage years, and well into my adult years, like from the age of 11 until 53. So that's 42 years of wearing a label that I never wanted or never asked for. And it wasn't that my mom wasn't a good mom, because she was. And, depending on what part of our lives you may have known her, um, in my teenage years, she was the cool mom. She was the mom that threw parties, but she had rules. Like if you were coming to one of our house parties, you had to leave your keys and you were not allowed to drive home. You had to let your parents know that you were staying at our house so that they knew where you were. And those were some good times that I had with my mom. And you can ask all of my friends that I had as a teenager, they would all agree that that's who my mom was. She was a cool mom. But a lot of them didn't see who she was before that. The woman that tried to take her life every other week, that ended up in a mental institute many of times, that flatlined in the back of an ambulance while I was there. You ever watch Grey's Anatomy? And there's a few episodes where Meredith is kind of reminiscing about her mom trying to commit suicide. And there's always that part where, she picks up the phone, she calls 911, the ambulance shows up, and you see someone, reaching out their hand and they're helping her out of the ambulance. That was me. That was my reality. No, I did not literally watch my mom physically try to commit suicide, but I was the one that found her when I got home from school. I'm the one who had to go upstairs and get the neighbor because I didn't know at that time, that very first time, that I should be calling 911. But I most certainly did ride in the back of that ambulance to the hospital. And I watched paramedics work on my mother while she flatlined in front of me. My mother died in front of me before we even got to the hospital, before they even opened those doors and reached out their hand to help me down from that ambulance. And then there was, my mom, who was a fantastic grandmother. She loved her grandchildren a lot. And when she was on her medication, she was fantastic with them. And she baked cookies with them, and she went to birthday parties, and she was a good grandmother. And I'm pretty sure that my children would agree with that statement. But unfortunately, they also had to see the sick grandma, the grandma that ended up in the hospital, the grandma that we had to go visit because she was at a mental institute. They also got to see that. And during those times, I tried not to bring my children up to the hospital to see my mom very often while she was in there, because I just never knew from one minute to the next what she was going to be like, or whether they had given her shock treatments again, and I didn't want my children to be traumatized like I was at their ages when my mom was in a mental institute. And then I was the person that was responsible for taking care of my mom because she lived with me. Because after she had decided that she was going to try to commit suicide again, she ended up in the hospital, and I was in my 20s at that time. And when she got out of the hospital, she had lost her apartment and she had nowhere to go. And I was literally forced to take her in. I wasn't gonna see her be homeless. She was my mother. But I also had my children living with me at that time. And that's when I lost my status, in my opinion, as a full-time mom, because I had to send my children away to go live with their fathers because my mom was still very unbalanced. And I woke up to her holding a butcher knife over me and my two children. And that was the moment that I decided to send my children to go live with their fathers, because I didn't want to put them through that. I'd been through enough in my life already. I did not want to have to wake up to having no children one morning because I didn't hear my mom in the middle of the night wake up and decide to grab a butcher knife and stab my children because she was having a schizophrenic moment. No, I sent my children away. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I wanted nothing more than to just be a mom and to not have my children go through the hell that was my life. That got cut short. And I'm not sitting here today trying to put my mother down, because the woman suffered with schizophrenia. She had she had a very hard life. She was tormented a lot by my father just as much as I was. And she still had a beautiful heart. She was kind. She was devoted. She loved with all that she had. And I'm very honored to have that as a part of me. The biggest things that I've ever gained from my mom was her love for life. As crazy as that sounds, her devotion to trying to always make a better life than she had. Her love for her family. She was just a very she was just a very caring person. And I'm very honored to, have those amazing qualities from her. She taught me that. It was very, very badly. But last year, my mom passed away. And I already, you know, knew what direction I wanted to go in with my podcast. And for the past week, I've really been sitting here struggling with my identity and trying to figure out who I am now because I'm no longer that person that's responsible for her mom. That chapter is finally closed and it's very surreal and it's very hard to process because it leaves me questioning, like, all right, so who am I now? So I've sat here for the last week and thought about it. And today I'm here to share that with you. Hello, my name is Danielle Sims, and I am the creator of the podcast Born from Sin. I am a 53-year-old woman that lives in Moncton, New Brunswick. I have been happily married to my husband for the last 17 years. We started dating in 2008, and in 2009, exactly a year later, we got married. We've known each other since 1986. So we were just kids when we met. And then years later, our paths crossed again, and 17 years later, here we are. I am a mother of 4. I have 2 biological children, and I have 2 stepchildren. But when anybody asks my husband or myself how many children we have 4. One of these 4 children I have yet to meet. Maybe someday I will, but that's another story. I'm a proud pet owner. I have 2 wiener dogs, Mr. Tank, our chunky bum, and then we have our sweet boy Diesel. We have our 2 beautiful girls, Callie, which is our oldest cat. That's a polydactyl, which means that she has extra toes on all of her paws, which is pretty cool. And then we have our little ball of energy, Augie, who we just um, ended up getting her Thanksgiving of last year. I am a new entrepreneur. I have recently started selling my very own flavored honey, vanilla extract, and fire cider at a Christmas market in New Brunswick, which has now led me to continuing in that venue. And we are already starting to prepare for Christmas of 2026. I've already made 80 bottles of vanilla extract, and we are about to make 100 bottles in total by the end of February, so that way there can sit and be all ready for November and December when we're at the Christmas market. And then up next is going to be the fire cider that I'm going to be creating. And then we'll move on to the honey, but because the honey takes a little less time, it'll be the last part of our products that we'll be creating to take out to the market. I am now also a podcaster. I come out here every Thursday, as long as technology is on my side. I come out here every Thursday and chat with you guys. And it's something that I've been very proud of. But I'm a very on the spot thinker when it comes to my shows. And maybe I should be a little bit more prepared sometimes because I do a lot of editing, not gonna lie. But I really like to try to be as natural as possible. I want to be as like I'm sitting here in your living room talking to you one on one. And I'm working on my eye contact. So when I started my podcast back in October. I think that I had a different route in mind. I wanted it to be very focused on the abuse that I went through and the fact that my parents had lied to me my entire life. Not that there weren't hints dropped here and there about them being biological brother and sister. And there were many hints throughout my life for whatever that I don't know, they flew over my head because I was too young to understand, or because of the situation that was going on, I didn't pick up on the clue that people were dropping. I was too naive or too blind to see it. And for the past week, I I've been sitting here thinking like, what am I gonna do for today's show? And I had a few ideas tucked away. And I was like, no, they're gonna be good shows, but it's just not the show that I wanted to put out today. And again, because I started really pondering, who am I? And started struggling again with that who am I label because I'm free from all of my past. And at the age of 53, I didn't think that it was something that would ever happen. I used to think of my life a lot like the Green Mile. The part at the end where Tom Hanks is in the old age home and he's waiting to die. And his punishment was that he was going to watch everybody else around him die because of killing John Coffey in the movie. And I always looked at my life with my mom in that kind of a perspective, that until my mom passed away, until God decided that it was finally her time, that her struggles were finally going to be over, this was going to be my life. I never knew whether or not she would actually outlive me. And that was kind of scary to sit there and think about because I didn't want that to be the way that my story ended. I always knew that I went through these struggles for a reason. I don't know what the reason was. I don't know why God thought that I was strong enough to go through all of this and actually make it through, but here I am. And I'm not a very religious person. I do not attend church. Um, because I have never felt the need to go to church to feel close to God. I know that God is there. I know that God is watching over me. I do pray from time to time. Otherwise, I kind of just sometimes feel like maybe I'm asking for too much and I should just be happy with what I have and grateful for what I have. And maybe I really don't need that extra prayer today. But I'll do a little prayer for someone else. I'm not the type of person that's ever gone to church unless it was school mandated, like First Communion or grade 8 graduation, being baptized as a baby. And it's not that I don't believe in God because I do believe in a higher power. I know when I reach out to God in my prayers that He always leaves me some kind of a little sign. I know He's listening. And I don't have to feel the need to pray every single night to feel close to Him. And that's just me personally. So again, when I first started this podcast, I wasn't, I was here to share the hell that was my life. And it almost felt like I had the, I had this anger inside of me that I needed to get out and I needed to tell the world what my parents did to me because they lied to me all these years about being who they were. And that was a huge impact on my life. A- And now that part of my life is done. Both my parents are gone. And again, like I said, I've had the opportunity to thankfully heal past the trauma that my father's put me through. But since June, I have still been struggling with not being that little girl in the back of the ambulance anymore. Not being the person that gets that phone call saying your mom's been rushed to the hospital because she's tried to kill herself. I'm struggling with not being the person that sits across from my schizophrenic mother and watches her change and leap out of a wheelchair at me. I've been having a hard time sleeping because I'm getting these flashbacks. And I know that I'm okay, and I know that these things are no longer gonna happen, but my mind needs to process them, to clear them out, to make room for new memories and new thoughts that aren't traumatic, and I struggle with that part. And although I will be continuing to share my past with everyone throughout, different episodes of my podcast, I don't want to re-traumatize myself at the same time. So as I'm healing through it, I'm going to share it with you. I am also a content creator being paid on Facebook and hopefully eventually on my other social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram and what's that, Threads. And I am recreating myself on there as well. I am sharing more positivity. I am sharing more mental health related topics because everybody's healing through their own struggles and their own journey. And I'm hoping that the content that I'm sharing will be relatable to others. So when I sit here now and I ask myself, who am I? I'm Danielle Sims. I'm the creator of Born from Sin. I am here every Thursday to share my healing journey with you. I am a very kind person. My shirt even says so. Kindness is my jam. I am funny. I have been through hell and back, and I'm standing strong here today, surviving it all, and happy to finally be able to close that damn door. I am happy to no longer have to wear labels that never should have been mine. I have a very good sense of humor. I love a good joke. I love animals. I love kids. I love people. I am very non-judgmental. I don't care if your skin is white, brown, yellow, green, but with pink polka dots. Don't matter none to me. I give you the respect that you give me. I give you the kindness that you give me. I have no right to judge who you are because I've never walked in your shoes. I've only walked in mine. I am Danielle Sims, and at the age of 53, I still honestly have no idea who I am other than a mom, a wife, a friend, caring human being, brand new entrepreneur, podcaster, and a content creator. And by the way, I'm a pretty awesome cook. Forgot to add that one in there. But I still have no idea what any of all that means. I have no idea where life is headed to next. But let me tell you, I am looking forward to the journey. I know there's still going to be bumps in the road. There always will be, but I've learned so much over the years to help tackle those things that I'm hoping to get over them and past them and through them. And I'm hoping to be able to encourage others just stick it out and hang in there and get to the end of the tunnel because the friggin' light is beautiful once you get there. Hang in there. Don't give up on yourself. And again, at the age of 53, I still really have no idea where my life is headed, but I hope that it's headed somewhere good because I deserve that. I deserve this freedom. I've been through a lot in my life, and I honestly believe that there's no way in the whole wide world that I would have been put on this earth to go through all that, not to have something good come out of it. And even if it just ends up being the peace that I have now in my life with my husband and the bond that I'm rebuilding with my children, I'm okay with that too. So tell me, who are you?